hey, Sean, a lot of my videos I outline or rehearse a few times before I record it. This one's coming a little bit more unedited, a little more off the cuff than they typically come. So please bear that in mind and watch with a bit of discretion. I have been off of Reddit for 4 days, and that's a huge deal. And let me explain. So I've been off of Facebook and Instagram since like the 2020 election, I think, after COVID had hit and all the nonsense. I was following it, and then I was off LinkedIn as well. I've made videos about all of these things. But I filled the gap with Reddit, and I liked it for a while because I could choose my content, but then I started just slipping into the homepage. And it wasn't that I was trying to be informed. I liked the feeling that I got from the posts that got upvoted and the things that would find me about sticking it to somebody, or the gotcha journalism, or you said this before and now you're saying this, but here, look at that. And someone like, I was thriving on that chaos and that gotcha. And it got to the point where a couple of years ago, like 2020, I was checking it every day, several times a day, and that wasn't a good place for me. And I ended up getting off of it completely, deleting my account and abandoning it. And then I lived a wonderful, happy couple of years. And over the past like 2-3 months, things have gotten challenging in my life in some ways that I'm not comparing to anyone else's challenges, but we've moved. I was gone for 10 days traveling. We've got things in flux around here. I get back from traveling and everybody's sick, and we're still trying to move in, and we got boxes everywhere. And it's just been stressful and trying to work and find things and get the kids show going. And like, there's so much going on, and I felt so stressed. And a few weeks ago, I was like, you know what? I'm going to check Reddit. And it wasn't like, you know what? I want to find out what's going on in the world. You know what? Like, I've been away from the news by choice for a while. I used to work for CNN back in 2007 and 2008. I've been in it. I managed a company that ran social media for years. I've had my thumb on the pulse for a long time, and I have willfully opted out of that. And so it wasn't like I wanted to get in there, but I wanted that like social media, what gets upvoted, who are we sticking it to? Like, I wanted that. And then again, it got to this point where over the past couple weeks, I found myself like checking it. Well, like when I take my daughter for a walk in the morning, like I'm walking and I'm just looking at, like, I'll check it for a second. And then like for 2 blocks, I'm just scrolling, and I feel awful afterwards. And I finally, like, it reached a point where I'm like, this is ridiculous. And so I was like, I'm going to go 1 day without touching it. And so I did. And then the next day I was like, I want to go 1 more day just to honor that first day, so that it means something. And that was 4 days ago. So I haven't checked Reddit in 4 days, maybe 5, I guess, when I'm posting this. But it reminded me, these 5 days, I've started to once again have clarity. And clarity on what I want to think, and not being controlled by the media. And I dislike vilifying the media as the media, and they have an agenda. But regardless of what their agenda or their political stance is, like, they want you to keep reading. They're biased towards sensationalism, and I bought into that, and I would have to check it. And what did he say, and what did they say about what he said? And then it's such a waste. And you know that at the time, but until I was on the other side of it, I didn't realize how much of my mind was occupied by the news and the drama of politics, especially after I had signed off, after I had closed the window. And it reminded me of, I think Ryan Holiday articulated it well, and I think the book Stillness is the Key, when he talks about protect your inputs, where same way you can choose your friends, you can choose what media you consume, you can choose what books you read, you can consume, you choose what music you listen to, you choose all these things, and those things all have an impact on you. And the type of people you hang out with shape who you are, and the type of messages you hear all the time shape who you are. And I think it's not hard to think of people in your life who watch a particular news outlet, and that's most of what they talk about, because that's their input. That's the food that they're getting. And That's what I was choosing for a long time. And it's so hard to see how big of an impact it has when you're in it. And so I'm finding myself just refreshed and invigorated for once again being able to break out of the cycle, and to realize how important it is to control the messages that I'm telling myself also. Because these inputs from the media, from social media, are one thing, but then also the inputs that you give yourself, that what you tell yourself about where you are in your career, about who you are as a partner, as a teammate, as a parent, as a child, whatever roles you may be filling, the messages that you give yourself are so important. And I'm seeing this with my 5-year-old and the things he's telling himself, and I have to catch what I'm telling myself and what I'm telling him. It's just putting into focus, into sharp focus, how important our inputs are and how important it is to curate those thoughtfully. Because if you don't, you can end up in a spot where you've surrendered yourself and you've given up to what someone else wants you to feel. And I find myself with my son who's 5. There's times when I do something that bothers him and he's mad about it for a while, and I try to tell him afterwards, like, how long are you going to let me pick how mad you are? Like, I may have said you can't have whatever for breakfast, or insert whatever 5-year-old situation, and then he's grumpy for an hour. And I'm telling him, like, you get to choose how long you spend being grumpy about what I did. And then I hear those things and I'm like, I get to also. And when I hear about political things, or when I hear about problems that I may have with my work, with my clients, or whatever, I get to choose how long I'm upset about those things. And I think a lot of the times I make the wrong decision. And so it took me sort of having this sudden contrast to a void of information where I don't know what's going on. I don't know which candidate said what most recently and how the other side felt about what they said and their plan for, I don't know any of that. And only because there's this sudden vacuum did I notice how much control I have and how I've already started to feel different. And so this video isn't advice to anyone. This is just my observation and a charge to myself to say, like, okay, well, now I have this space. What do I want to fill it with? And a year ago, when I gave myself this space, I started reading and journaling really regularly. Like every day I would spend a lot of time doing that. And man, did I feel energized and poised and composed, because that's the content that I was consuming, was stuff about that. And not that any one of these books that I was reading is like the book on how to live your life and how to fix everything, whatever. It wasn't at all that. It was just that instead of hearing about what made somebody else mad and how somebody else felt about that, instead of that being what was finding me, I was choosing to read something about a stoic. I mean, I was reading the Ryan Holiday books and I enjoy them. I'm not saying that they're pivotal new information or anything like that, but just that little hit, a little digestible chapter of hope, of integrity, of power, of perseverance. Instead of checking a social media and letting someone else choose how I feel and what I'm thinking about, by exercising that ability to control what I'm putting in, I have such control over what I put out. And man, I was in a dark place for a few weeks there, for a lot of different reasons. And it's not because I turned off Reddit that this is all happening. Some of this is happening, and that's why I turned off Reddit. But it was a very obvious example of what control I was surrendering, and how good it could feel on the other side. And so if you're watching, if you made it this far, this information is probably not new or novel to anyone, but my challenge would be to examine your inputs, to say, what are you watching? What are you reading? What are you checking? Who's in control of that? And how is it making you feel? And if you could pick how you feel, what inputs would get you to the output you want? Reverse engineer it. And I think it's a Seneca quote of like, above all else, guard your perceptions. And I think that's a good way of wording this, where you can choose how you react to information and how you find that information. And when people are showing you that, you often lose your perception because you're being told someone else's opinion, and you're absorbing all this different perspective other than your own. And these things don't come with, hey, by the way, I'm biased because of this. These things are just finding you, and you're absorbing all of them. And so guard your perceptions and really protect your inputs, because when you do that, you can have a firmer control on what your outputs are. And man, it can make a real difference if you take the time to choose how you want to be and work toward setting yourself up to do that. That's all I got. Again, this was an unguided, free-flowing hot take. Is that what the kids are calling them these days? That's what this was. But if you made it this far, I sincerely appreciate it. If you've ever been addicted to social media and made it out, throw it in the comments. Let's do this. I guess that's somewhat antithetical to make YouTube comments about how you're not addicted to social media. But that's for another day. Thanks for watching. I sincerely appreciate it. Have a great day or night or whatever, wherever. See you later. Bye.